largest insert molded frame in Gunpla history has been adopted. This enables the speediest assembly of the entire internal frame in PG history.
What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are excited for the PG New Unleashed coming out next year, but before then, I've got my hands on the PG Unleashed RX-78 II. Most of the big YouTubers I've seen have gone straight to Phase 2 and then continued on this way, but I've barely seen anyone try to make Phase 1. I don't think I've seen a single YouTube video on it. So what I'm going to do today is to focus on Phase 1 and show you guys what it looks like. So let's begin. First, let's have a look at the very cool injected molded frame. The left represents the legs and the right represents the arms. Let's first get it snipped out. These parts are incredibly detailed and they're double injection molded. I don't know how Bandai pulled this off, but it looks amazing. What you notice is that most of the inner frame parts will never be seen outside, so the whole building process is where you can appreciate the level of detail. What you can see is that even some of the little pipings, there's color separation at the lowest level. Absolutely crazy. So what I'm going to do is cut out all the other parts and then let's assemble it together. At the end of the video, I'm going to put screenshots of each of the sections and what parts you need. So if you want to recreate the Phase 1 of the PG Unleashed RX-78 II, hopefully this makes it much easier. Because when I did this, there was no guides and it took a lot of time to look against the render pictures and then see exactly what parts I needed to cut out. You can see here that it's not involving all of the parts of the Phase 2, it's just some of the parts. So this is the finished piece of the Phase 1 leg and this is what it looks like as the raw parts. Now let's get the other one built. Alright, now we have both legs complete. It's looking nice. Now let's move on to the waist. So these are all of the parts that you need to build the Phase 1 waist. There are quite a lot of differences between Phase 1 and Phase 2. I've just taken out all the parts for Phase 2 and this is what you need. The waist was super easy to put together and it didn't involve that many parts. I really enjoyed this part of the process because you don't have to undo it later for Phase 2. So definitely well worth it. Here are all the parts laid out for Phase 1 of the chest and the core block unit. You need to be careful with putting parts together because later on you may need to undo the parts to insert another one in for a different phase, and this can ruin the kit if you put it in straight away. What I mean by this is if you were to put these two too tightly together, you'll actually mess it up because you need to put in a different part for Phase 2. So my recommendation is be very careful, check the manual, and if you put the parts together, don't push it, lock it in snapped. You want to leave some gap. I gotta say that out of all the RX available to purchase, this is the first one that had a core block and a core fighter separate. I think this is a great idea as many people want to show the core fighter on display as a jet, rather than being hidden away as part of the inner frame. I like the addition of also many different types of figures. So we get 4 figures, 3 Amuros, 1 in the jet, 1 in the core block, and then 1 separately outside standing. And we also get a very nice looking sailor figure, which many of you would also consider painting. This guy just goes slot on in here, and that looks great. You can even bring down the camera unit. That is so cool. Alright, let's move on to the next part. There's not many of them, but these are all the parts you need to build the arms for Phase 1. The arms are finished now, so let's see how we can attach the hands on. There are a whole bunch of fixed pose hands, and these have advantages and disadvantages. The advantages are they can use chrome plating, which makes it look very, very cool, but I guess the disadvantages are you can't make the hands go into any position you want. Now finally, we have the head unit. Now I think this is accurate for Phase 1 because if you look at the picture on the render, it doesn't have much on it. This one may require undoing the pieces to get it into Phase 2, so keep that in mind. Here you can see that the details of the head would get covered up in later phases and most people would never notice. You can see the details of the ammunition that feed into the head Vulcan that would otherwise get missed if you were rushing through the phases. It's very cool getting a slow down view of something like this and you can see a lot more details than you would otherwise. So the moment you've all been waiting for, let's assemble it all together. Hopefully this video can help you guys assemble it faster now that you know exactly what parts you need in the assembly process. I'm not going to make the joints too tight because I'm going to have to take them off anyway, so let's just try to keep it as loose as possible. My thoughts on the phase 1 build is that I think most people don't need to bother doing it because it takes a lot of effort, and if you're going to put on the other armor parts anyway, you'll have minimal reward. But for those of you who are super curious and just want to have it in this phase 1 for a bit of time before you continue the build, I think it's definitely worth it because of how cool it looks, and it's super different to the other phases. It's basically like the skeletal structure before you put anything else on. So if you guys want a challenge, feel free to look at the screenshots at the end of the video of what parts exactly you need to build it and have a go, see how it looks. If you guys like the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'm going to do videos on other phases too, so stay tuned. I'll see you guys later. Peace. I wanted to make this quick disclaimer at the end of the video just to help some of you guys that are actually considering building this phase 1. There are some disadvantages that I do have to let you guys know about, and the first one is it's super unstable. If you look at the core block unit as it is now, it is super unstable because it's not attached in any way. It's only gravity that's holding it together. So keep that in mind that you won't be able to do any poses other than the standing one right here. So the other thing you need to be careful about is the leg joints. They are super narrow. So if you observe right here, it's only like a tiny little ball joint, which will get reinforced later in phase 2. So if you were to do this in phase 1, I recommend keeping it as a standing pose because you can't do much else. As I mentioned earlier in the video, you want to keep some of the joints loose. So my recommendation is keep the foot joint loose, keep the leg joint loose, keep the arm joints loose, and also this chest piece here. Please be sure not to click this into place. And also the head unit, I also kept it a little bit of a gap so it's easy to take apart later. I think it's very fun to experience phase 1. So if you guys ever get to the process, I think this is the best part. You just put the piece down like this, attach the core block unit, and then attach the top bit on. The top bit on would just fall into place. There is no locking mechanism, and just let gravity do its work. Just make sure to keep it balanced, otherwise it will easily tip forward or back. But if you have it something like this, then it will look very nice. Also, in the comments down below, let me know if you build this and if you noticed any other details I missed. Thanks for watching.